teachers at Reddit. What is your best "that kid is going places" story? I had some college students in my speaking class, ESL. I asked them an opinion question about the Industrial Revolution and they had not one clue what I was talking about. Even when I broke it down to dates and inventions, they remained lost. My goal was for them to be able to express an opinion, not deliver their turn of the century expertise. So we moved on. Well, the next day one student took it upon himself to research the Industrial Revolution and told me all about it the next morning. He ended it with, "It was really interesting. Thanks. An inquisitive mind can take you to so many places." Preschool teacher here. When one of my 3-year-olds started weird-alling traditional kids songs, like "London Bridge is Falling Down" became "Take the Pee and Flush It Down," and she'd stop and scream after the "When I Get All Steamed Up, Hear Me Shout" line and "I'm a little teapot." That level of wordplay and social knowledge is really impressive. TA. But I work in a school, so here we go. One of the kids at the school I work at started doing everyone's homework for pay. The thing is, he was smart enough to ask for samples of the other kids' handwriting and copy their handwriting as best as he could while doing the homework for them. It took about 2 months for him to be caught, and in that time he had made over $1,000 doing homework for other kids. The only reason he even got caught was that he was spending so much time at home doing homework. 5th graders get about 30 minutes of homework a night on average, outside of big projects, and his parents went to the school to complain about how much homework he was doing every night. I had a 1st grader one year, smartest kid I've ever taught, who figured out that the square of any number must end in 0, 1, 4, 9, 6, or 5 and that it goes in a pattern. 0, 1, 4, 9, 6, 5, 6, 9, 4, 1, 0 then repeat. 1st grade. I was privileged to have a true prodigy student who, at 11 years old, had already worked through and memorized many of Bach's 2-part inventions, several well-tempered clavier preludes and fugues, and was working on Chopin preludes, etudes and waltzes, among other literature. I told his parents their son was going places and that they should fully support a special accelerated course of music studies for him. He recently earned a Doctor of Musical Arts degree, performance, and is getting offers playing solo piano works and concertos with orchestras. I'm not a teacher, but when I was a senior in high school there was a freshman in my metal fab class. He took to things right away: welding, machining, costing. He was a natural. He started tinkering with some mechanical stuff and started a project. He took an old lawnmower motor and the leaf spring from a pickup and made this crazy machine that wound up a heavy metal shaft and the leaf spring slammed it down into an anvil. Then he started forging tools and used the mechanical hammer to shape them. I saw him on Facebook a couple of years ago and he runs his own metallurgy business making custom art, wrought iron gates and the like. I knew he could make a living doing this stuff the moment I saw him pick up a tool. Preschool teacher here. We have a 3, almost 4-year-old at my daycare who wows us with his interest in numbers. He is obsessed with telling time and can read an analog clock. As an extension of this, if you say to him it's 4:10 right now, how long until 5:20, he's able to rattle off 70 minutes. He's also extremely interested in traffic and has memorized most of the highways in our city and often tells us if there is an accident on one. It's not only that he can do neat tricks, it's that you can plainly see on his face all the gears turning in his brain. He's so personable, open to learning, and quick to catch on. I find it very interesting and gratifying to see a child clearly so full of potential so young. We work on mathematics with him whenever we can and dearly hope he continues to pursue his passions as he grows. Apparently Muhammad Ali wasn't going to graduate high school. He was the second lowest scoring student, but the faculty and staff had a meeting and essentially decided to fudge the numbers. Their rationale being, we don't want to be the people who stopped Cassius Clay from doing amazing things. I once had a student who was going on a family vacation to Tampa and Orlando. I didn't believe it at first, so her mom brought in the itinerary. You should have seen the look on my face. That kid was going to more than one place. As I watched them drive off, I thought to myself, that kid is going places. I'm about a year in. including a semester of student teaching and replacing a teacher mid-year, so I haven't had as many students as some of the other posters. That said, I've got 2 examples of 8th grade students. One student has gotten into podcasting and did a few projects in podcast and webcast form. He has a bit of a speech problem with pronunciation. Think Ric Flair or Dusty Rhodes. But his heart's in the right place and I see him working towards that goal. 2. I had my students create a debate where they had to research different topics between cell phone usage versus not, effects of television and games, implications of torture for military use, etc. One student who sided against torture gave a rich, detailed paper with sources from both sides of the political spectrum to create a well-rounded debate. Her written portion was excellent, but her actual classroom debate was even better, as she appealed to everyone emotionally and logically. I remember telling one of the other teachers, "Holy it, she's my new attorney." Not a teacher, but there's a saxophone player at the middle school in my area who, as an 8th grader, could play Flight of the Bumblebee at a near professional level, with circle breathing and everything. I have a video saved if anyone is interested. Edit. I teach high school social studies and I have a bunch to choose from, but I'll choose 3 of my favorites. 1. I once saw a kid reading a thick packet that he had printed out. I asked him what it was. He said it was a collection of majority, concurring, and dissenting opinions from a recent Supreme Court case. I asked him why he was reading it. His response, "For fun." 2. I had one student who was not strong in traditional academics. He was a good kid, but his grades weren't great and he often didn't feel like doing schoolwork. I later had a conversation with him in which I discovered he had been diving deep into researching, buying and reselling high-priced sneakers. He showed me how he often cleared a few $1,000s a month doing so, just as a part-time gig. This may have contributed to his lack of desire to do algebra or read Shakespeare to prepare for his future. 3. Not a story per se, but I had one student who could explain the geopolitical history and situation of over 50 sovereign states, could host a school assembly event with zero preparation and made over 500 kids and adults laugh consistently, and once organized a political protest with hundreds of teenagers. She was legitimately the most intelligent human I have ever taught, easily more intelligent than many of the adults in the school, myself being no exception. Not a teacher, but I once knew a guy who took something like 12 AP exams his senior year of high school, most of which were 4 classes he completed online in a McDonald's because he didn't have Wi-Fi at home and his school didn't offer them in person. The greatest thing he ever told me was, if you ever want to do something, do it yourself. He's pursuing a physics degree at MIT now. Never forget Kevin. A 5-year-old girl in my class came in with a "girls just want to have fundamental rights" t-shirt and I told her I liked it, and then she started explaining feminism to me. I tried to emphasize creative problem solving and entrepreneurship last year with my 6th graders, and we did a lots of small activities leading up to a big project wherein they come up with a product to sell to their classmates, Shark Tank style. Tons of kids showed potential, but there were 2 girls in particular who started making things at home and selling them to other students and teachers at school. One made these amazing chocolate pretzel things. The other made and sold slime, which he learned how to make in science class. One of my little brother's best friends in high school was super involved in school government. By the time he was a senior, the administration at the high school had just assigned him his own office. This is him. Not a teacher, but there was a kid in one of my friend, who is a teacher's class, who got 100% in the course. He at one point got an answer wrong on a test. It turned out that the answer key was wrong and he was right. This was an AP calculus. I had a student in high school. He wasn't retarded or in any special ed classes. He stuck a crayon in his ear and it got stuck. He is going places. Not college but places. I tutor kids in an after school teaching center, and there's this one girl who, through a miracle, made it past 5th grade. Some kids are bad at maths. Some kids are bad at languages. They learn Portuguese and some English at this level, and later a second foreign language. Some are bad at sports. Some are bad at arts. But this girl, she is not only bad at all of them, She is downright terrible at most of them. I would usually help them with their homework and studying for tests with them, and then go over the tests they did after they got the grades back to see what went wrong. This girl had learned how to determine which numbers are multiples of other numbers. And there was a question that was like, one boy is thinking of a number between 85 and 93. This number is a multiple of 7, but not a multiple of 3. Which number was he thinking of? This wasn't the exact question, but it was very close to this. And so I'm asking her what she thinks. And the first thing she says is, I think it's 75. I reminded her it has to be between 85 and 93, and that 75 isn't a multiple of 7 in the first place. And she says okay, 82. This went on for literally at least 10 minutes. The worst part is this was a multiple choice question. Anyway, this girl is going places. Not college for sure, but places. Not a teacher, but I'm really interested to see where this one girl I went to high school with ends up. She didn't get the best grades, but if you talk to her you realize just how smart she was. She had a very decent understanding of advanced physics and psychology. She very well could have been a straight A student, but she said she was just too bored to care. She also didn't have many friends and spent a lot of time alone, but if you took the time to talk to her you could have amazing hour-long conversations. She has, or full anxiety, but she coped so well you'd never know. In senior year she got a private meeting with her House representative and got to meet the Prime Minister of Canada in Ottawa, the capital of Canada. We live in a small no-name town in northern BC. It's been a few years since high school and she's going to school full-time at a community college in Vancouver. Due to the not caring thing in high school, her grades were just slightly too low to go to a university. But in addition to that, she's traveled all over Canada, the United States and Europe, and has a low-level management position for a multinational company despite only working with them for a year, but has met the regional and head office managers on many occasions. She's going to be a workshop facilitator at a national conference. She feels like she is a complete underachiever, but I feel like she's going to do something great. She hasn't even hit 20 yet, but she's met 3 world leaders and has a secure career should she choose to stay with the company she's with now. That's not too bad if you ask me. Not a teacher, but in my 8th grade algebra class, there was a 6th grader doing better than all of us. He's going to be doing calculus in his sophomore year. RIP all my self-esteem and confidence. I'm a ducking failure. The kid was me. I had a baking class in elementary school. We had a big end of the year project where we had to bake with our dads at home to bring in, and whoever won got an automatic A in the class. Got to taste test the other entries. The teachers were tasting the entries and got to go on each recess with each class for 1 school day. So I went home and told my parents that we were having a bake-off. The rules were we had to bake something with our grandmothers, and the child of that grandmother has to present it with me, as they didn't want to inconvenience elderly people. I already chose my dad's mom since she was an excellent baker. See what I did there? Anyway, we won, and then my dad came clean to one of the teachers afterwards. Didn't want to flat out embarrass me in front of the class. I was in 1st grade, I believe. The teachers thought it was so creatively smart they let me do the taste testing with the actual winner. My 12-year-old cousin is an entrepreneur. He is really good at taking things apart and putting them back together. So he has become the school's unofficial mechanic. People go to him when their pens are broken and he charges 50 cents for a diagnostic test and $1 if he manages to fix it. He also folds paper aeroplanes that can really fly far for 50 cents each. He even offered to teach his schoolmates how to fold it, but people are just lazy and would rather buy one from him. He can take any stationery and make a gun that can shoot paper pellets. My aunt found out about his business when she discovered the amount of money he had. Not a teacher. Some kid on my high school robotics team is 14 years old and in 10th grade. He's written the code for all of our vision processing this year and it works fairly well. During my student teaching, I had a student in my 10th grade English class who brought in a griddle into school and made grilled cheese sandwiches. He had it right on his desk. I said I wouldn't give him a detention if he made me one. One time in high school, the teacher said to another student that if he doesn't want to be here he can leave anytime. I said for real, and got up and left, and as I was leaving the teacher pointed at me and said I was going places. Anyone else reading this and secretly hoping they'll read a story about themselves? I teach elementary school and I run ultra marathons and organize trail races in my free time. We had an outing for my science class to find trash around the school. I was walking by the track with a kid who is pretty lean and tall and challenged him to a race, 1 lap. The plan was to let him stay close then school him at the end. When we got around the last turn he slowed a bit. I did too. Then he took off and we ended about even. He told me his plan was to keep with me then school me at the end. Few months later I got him on the youth track team and he's keeping up with the high schoolers. Can't wait to see how he does if he keeps up the drive. Tutor. This kid was really creative. He would draw a ton of pictures that were detailed and awesome. He once built a video game out of cardboard. His imagination was just unreal. He couldn't concentrate and didn't like doing real school work. I never worried much because he was going to solve some problem no one has ever thought of. The moment in question he was asking me a bunch of questions when I was overwhelmed by work and getting other kids out the door. I told him to go draw a picture. He asked of what, so I said a polar bear cause it's my favorite animal. He goes away and comes back in like a minute and hands me a piece of paper with what looks like a keyhole on it. I asked him where's my polar bear. He told me it was a polar bear blinking in a snowstorm. I just kind of laughed. Kids going places. My friend right now is building a model jet engine in his spare time. Not a kit, making it from parts he finds. He knows a computer inside out and has built several decent machines out of stuff he finds at the local dump. I5 and 7s. He has built a working remote control robot, is self-taught at piano and could play it without knowing how to read it at age 10, proficiently. He loves films and makes short films in his spare time as well. He can play the saxophone very well as the piano. With all that he's extremely humble about it and only reveals his various talents if asked about them. My friend group is the only one who he will show off his creations to. His only downfall is that he for the life of him cannot take tests, as poorly every time. Oh, and did I mention he's training with the national karate team and is competing in Ireland soon with his mother who is on the team. Also he's 15. Intro, the Notorious B.I.G. Duck all you hoes. Get a grip, a thirdica, yeah. This album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I'd never amount to nothing.